In this video, guys, we've got to try and clean up this tank and try and get it back white. We've got a couple neat little tricks, and we've got to clean up this airbox that somebody decided to paint black. So we've got a lot of work. Let's see how far we get. So this fuel tank's in pretty rough shape. It's really yellow. You know, we've stripped most of the paint off with the pressure washer, but we're gonna have to get in here and get rid of the rest of this. There's some cracks, so I don't know how well that's gonna go over. They're not leaking, and they don't seem to be all the way through, but we're gonna do our best to try and restore this. If not, we will replace the tank, but I think we can get away with cleaning this up. Now, I've seen some pretty amazing results with some pretty neat, different oddball techniques. So I'm gonna show you guys what we're gonna try. We're gonna find out together if it even works. So what we've got here, this is from Tusk, but it's just basically like a little chisel that you use for scraping gasket material. And we're gonna go around and just try and scrape the paint off, actually, because it's pretty thick in spots and we can get under it pretty easy. So I think that's gonna be our first venture here. It's a notorious problem with these 90s white tanks. The yellowing, it happens. It's just like an oxidization. So you can take a razor blade and scrape off all your high spots. And we've done this for a while on these tanks. You can see I'm just shaving it off, taking out any kind of big nicks or bumps. And then we have another process we're gonna try on this build to see if we can get it really, really white. So after we go over it with the razor blade, we removed most of the paint. Like, there's some spots in here I just can't get at without damaging the tank. And I don't really care so much about the inside, but we need to get the inside and all the visible spots back white. And hopefully we don't damage the tank doing it. Now, you can buy a reproduction tank that's the right size, not those stupid oversized tanks. Look, I'm not a desert racer racing in the Baja, so I don't want a 40-gallon fuel tank on my bike. I want a stock size. I just want stock size tanks. And VMX is a company that does make really good reproductions. Some people say the Clarks are okay, but I've seen the Clarks. I don't know. I'd like to see one more in person. Sometimes they look a little goofy, the oversized tanks, but I don't know why companies aren't stocking the normal size tanks. I don't want the oversized tank, and I don't want to have to try and risk ordering one off eBay from China. But yeah. So we're just taking the razor blade. I don't know if you guys can tell the difference that's happening, but we're just trying to remove a thin layer, getting rid of the scratches and a lot of the oxidization. It just helps us later on. Now, this process is going to be a really long process. Expect to spend like 6 hours working on a part like this in order to try and bring it back. Here's the thing. You can buy a brand new reproduction for about $300 US. That's not cheap, but what's an hour of your time worth? And then you can decide. Now, with Project 93, we're trying our best to reuse parts. Obviously, the engine cases, we did a fix on those. And we're really gonna try our hardest to fix this tank. So hopefully it all works out. So what we've got is 400 grit. See, it's 400 grit wet sandpaper. And what we're gonna do is dip it in our water, and we're just gonna go over it and try and smooth everything out with our 400 here. And then we're gonna have to keep upping it. So we're gonna go from 400 to 600 to 800, 1,000, 12, 15, 2,000. And hopefully by then it'll be a nice, perfectly smooth tank. But it's a lot of work, guys. So, but we have a little trick we're gonna try and do in between to help us brighten it all up. So once you're happy with your 400 grit sanding, the next step's gonna be to wash all this slurry of stuff off. And I know it still looks yellow and stuff. And hopefully our next step will take care of that. I saw this online, I've never done it yet. So I figured we better try it together and see if it actually works. And if it does, we're all gonna be pretty happy if we're working on white plastic. We got our garden hose ready and we're just gonna soak it and rub off all the slurry that's all over this thing. All right, so this stuff, guys, you buy this stuff from a hair salon. And I guess this is what girls use, or guys, I guess, some guys, to bleach their hair blonde. There's different strengths, so 40 is the strongest. So I found a hair salon place that sells it. I went there and said, hey, do you have this stuff? I showed her a picture. She's like, oh yeah. She's like, do you need any of it? I'm like, no, unless you have other stuff that fixes dirt bikes. Then yeah, I'll take whatever you have that fixes dirt bikes. And she thought I was a little crazy. But I seen a thing online and the guy used this stuff. He brushed it all over the tank. He let it sit for like 3 days and that tank looked brand new. Now either I'm getting scammed and I just bought a bunch of hair shit that I don't need, or we're all gonna be like, wow. Anyway, I'm gonna dump that stuff in my little tray, brush it all over this, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if we gotta shake it. It doesn't say anything about stirring it. It just says it's a gel. It says don't get it in your face. Well, it looks like a creamy mess. Let's see how it goes. Glog a bunch out in here. I'm sure we're gonna need lots. That's why I bought the big one. And yeah, it's kind of a white paste. Let's start pasting it on. We've got some saran wrap down because the guy wiped it, or had it all wrapped in saran wrap on what I saw online. And he thought it was the UV that caused the transformation to bleach it. But I never seen no UV lights at a hair salon. What you see there is those big things like in the movies, you know what I mean? You see the people sitting under them and they make heat. They're like a hair dryer. So you might be able to speed up the process with a heat gun, but I think we're just gonna let it sit on and see what happens. We're gonna goop it all on. I don't know how much to put on. It's not like the directions tell you how much to put on your fuel tank. Worst it can do is completely wreck this tank. And I guess I'll be the test dummy for the internet. I think the saran wrap was on there just more or less to hold it because it's pretty runny. It doesn't really smell. I thought it would be like a bleach smell, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Well, let's wrap this sucker up and see what happens. So I guess we'll just set this outside in the sun, let it bake. Got a little bit of a hole down here. I don't want it to, may have to put a little more saran wrap on it. We'll set it outside and let it bake in the sun every day for a few days, and then we'll take the crap off and see. In the meantime, we'll work on the rest of the parts. So our next step is gonna be trying to get this black paint off of this poor Airbox, and then trying to clean it back up to make it look new. We've got white paint on there, we got black paint. The black paint surprisingly holds pretty good. I don't know. I wish it wasn't done, but it is, so we got to deal with it. So we're gonna be doing a lot of scraping to try and remove a bunch of it. The problem is I haven't found a paint stripper that's safe on plastic. And because this part is kind of irreplaceable, they're really hard to find, really hard to get. We're gonna have to spend some time and clean this up. Unless you guys know of a better place to buy replacement white airboxes, leave a link or a comment, let me know. I'd love to know. I haven't been able to find a place. We have spent hours scraping this with a razor blade to try and get it somewhat back to where we can. Really the only spot you're gonna see on the side of the bike are these and this underneath under the fender. And I can't get it perfect. It's got a lot of scratches. Some of this will be covered by frame rails. The mud flap will go here. But we're gonna try and clean it up a little bit more. We're actually gonna use Vim, because Vim will whiten white plastic because it has bleach. We're trying the other thing with the fuel tank, but we're gonna try this on this bike and see how it goes on the breather box. We're gonna just kind of soak it all in like a lot of Vim and just keep on scrubbing. We've let this sit outside, wrapped up with this goop on there for about 3 days. So I'm gonna cut it open. I don't think it got a whole lot whiter. We're gonna see, we'll rinse it off. I'm gonna cut it open on the bottom here, because I got so much saran wrap on it. It's just kind of a mess, really. Let's see, maybe it worked, I don't know. Looks pretty slimy. Maybe it's... Probably shouldn't be touching this stuff with my bare hands. I don't think the hairdressers do. Let's move to the laneway because we kept getting dirt. I don't know, what do you guys think? I still see yellow, but I guess that's to be expected. But not as bad maybe as I thought. Oh, let's compare it to the 96 and see what it looks like. Because the 96 tank's in pretty good shape. All right, so this is Project 93's crappy, beat up, black painted gas tank that we've stripped down. And we just did the hair bleach stuff on it. It's still pretty yellow to my eyes. Like, it looks like, you know, obviously that's a lot whiter than the tank. But if you compare it to the 96 tank, which is in really good shape, it's pretty close. Like, it's pretty good, guys. So when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have any money to go buy new plastic. And, you know, number plates were always white. Your side rear fenders were white. On my 91, it had white plastic all over the darn thing. And it would always get beat up. And in order for me to make my bike keep looking really, really nice, Vim. Now, obviously it didn't look like this when I bought it because the package has changed. But I used to use Vim, a lot of Vim. Mom always had to buy me lots of Vim. But I would scrub my tank with Vim and an abrasive pad of some sort. These are just cheap ones from the dollar store. But we're gonna Vim this tank up and see if we can, because it's like a wet sand almost. And we'll spray it off. Like, this pad is breaking down pretty quick here. But it used to work, so we'll see if it works on Project 93. So what we went ahead and did, guys, is we tried the Vim to clean it up. I think it helped quite a bit. Then we went ahead and we did a 400 wet sand, a 600, a 1000, a 1200, and finished with a 2000. And I think that's probably as good as we're gonna be able to get this old CR tank. Now, if you guys look back in the videos, you can see this tank was rough. It was in some bad shape. We've got it a long way. There's one more step we're gonna do, and we're gonna buff it with like a car buffing pad, a wool pad, to try and bring back some of that shine. But I just got to rig up a jig to kind of hold it a little better. So what we've come up with, guys, is we just had a 2x8 and we jammed an old shirt for a rag in there and pressed our gas tank on, and it's pretty secure. We're going to take our buffer. Now, we're not using any kind of a compound. That's the key, I guess. So we put it on a really low speed. The lowest speed we have is 800, so we're going to try that. And we're just going to work back and forth, nice and even, trying to bring that shine back up. Now, the trick with doing this kind of stuff, guys, is the more time you spend, the better the result. But you got to be careful not to sit in one spot. Like right here, we've got a little bit of wear in, so we're going to try and blend that in. But the more time you spend, you know, this isn't a rush job. Project 93 is not a rush job. When you jump into something like this, it's a lot of work. Hours and hours of work. I don't think that's too bad, considering what we started with, guys. I think the plastic's coming a long way. The irreplaceable ones, anyway. Wait till we see them when we get them on the bike. So we've got our breather box fully assembled. We've went and got some new bolts, or lock nuts, I should say, and threaded them on, tightened it all down, cleaned up our boot, cleaned up the box. Compared to what we started with, this is a remarkable change. And this is just simply sanding and working away at it, and wet sanding it and all that. But one thing I want to talk about, guys, when you're redoing these boxes is this is the neutral color, and this one's made by UFO. UFO has been a big supporter of Project 93, so we're going to use this, and I use these on a lot of my bikes. I buy a lot of UFO products. Their color match is really close, and the fit up of their parts is second to none, basically, other than OEM Honda. But to get the OEM Honda ones, you're looking at 50 or 60 bucks. And let's face it, Project 93 is not a full OEM perfect bike. And some of the parts you just can't get OEM, like the other plastics, the nuclear red. But UFO makes a great product. We're gonna bolt that on. We've got some OEM screws to go on with it. And we're gonna do that and then get this back on the bike. Now, when we removed the old one off Project 93, it actually had like wood screws from somebody's deck trying to hold it on. So hopefully there's enough meat left in the thread, the plastic, that our stock screws will hold it on. That one feels really good. That one's pretty good. I'm gonna leave it at that. Now, we haven't SC1 this. This is just simply buffing it to make it shiny. But what we are going to SC1 is the black boot, because it is almost impossible to get this shiny and buffed up without some sort of advantage like SC1. So we're going to spray our SC1 on the inside, not the inside of the boot, but the inside that's going to be covered, because it's almost impossible to do it when it's on the bike and get a good coating. We're a big fan of SC1 here on the Dirt Bike Repair channel. Now, Tusk, I'm not sponsored by SC1 by any means. I just like it because it's a product that I can get and it's good. Now, Rocky Mountain won't ship their aerosol cans up to Canada. So Rocky Mountain has a product, and where SC1's like 15 bucks a can, Rocky Mountain's like $3 a can or $5 a can. I would love to try it, and if you guys have tried it, let me know. Let me know how that stuff works. I need to figure out a way to get some up here to try it. Anyway. We'll let that sit and then we'll wipe it off. We've got the subframe on the bench. We're just gonna tuck our breather box back in. If I can remember exactly how this goes. Just like that. We're gonna install our UFO nuclear red rear fender and really try and pull Project 93 together to show the progress. I wanna see what it looks like with the white and how it really looks. But man, this UFO stuff, like I've said, I no complaints with this stuff ever. So let's see how it looks. Again, another UFO front plastic. They just look good. I feel like we get these back on the bike, it's really gonna help Project 93. I can't stress it enough, guys. I spent hours, and when I say hours, I'm not joking. Like, I probably have 40 hours of sitting and scraping and sanding and polishing on this plastic to try and get it where we're at now. I'm not 100% satisfied with the fuel tank. I do have a brand new reproduction fuel tank in storage, ready to go if this tank leaked or anything like that. But I'm really trying to use the parts that came with Project 93 in order to show that parts can be saved and restored. I'm probably gonna try another round of that hair goop because I think that it really can pull the color out. But it's a matter of putting it on, wrapping it, and maybe using a heat gun this time rather than leaving it out in the sun. I don't think it got hot enough in the sun. I'm in Canada. It's not as hot as it is in Southern California. I wish it was some days, but it's not. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe on the videos. Leave a comment down below, especially if you guys have any idea how to pull out the stuff that I haven't tried. I would love to know how you're cleaning up your white plastic and restoring it, because I think everybody wants to know. It is the downfall of these 90s CRs, is the white fuel tank. They look great when they're white, but they are tough to get back to white. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.